This Week in Blizz is proudly sponsored by DoghouseSystems.com. If you use the code TWiB at checkout, that's TWiB, you will get double memory on your next Doghouse System. We thank DoghouseSystems.com for their support of This Week in Blizz. And also TweakedAudio.com. Go to TweakedAudio.com for high-performance, noise-reducing earbuds. Use our code TWiB to get 30% off plus free shipping on your next order, and support This Week in Blizz in the process.
Armed and ready. Who wants some? This week in Blizz.
Welcome back, everyone, to This Week in Blizz. I'm Garrett Weinzerl.
I'm Ben Seifel.
And filling in for Kyle today is the writer of This Week in Blizz, Mike, better known to a lot of you as Tash Card. How you doing, Mike? It's weird calling you Mike. I call you Tash all the time. You're not Mike to me.
I am Mike to almost no one on the internet, so...
Oh, well, wonderful. Good to know. Even though we've met in person, I still feel the need to refer to you as Tash. Or that dude with the really long hair.
Oh, geez. I'm going to have to take this down before the show's done. You have no idea. It's getting really, really long.
Yeah, which is funny because the last time we met, I believe my hair was the longest it had ever been. And yours was still longer than mine.
Just barely. And I've done nothing. I've just let it go. So.
Oh, damn, man. Well, when we come out there for BlizzCon, we're going to have to put together a grunge band because I guess that's all all that's left to do with hair like that, dude.
I've got some flannel.
Hey, you're wearing it right now. You're in good shape.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's plaid. You can't tell it's actually flannel. You know? Let's pump the brakes there, man. This is not Kurt Cobain approved. Anyways, welcome back to another episode of TWiB. This is, of course, the show where we keep you up to date on the worlds of Blizzard Entertainment. Kyle is out sick. He has strep throat. Actually, no word yet on if we'll be recording the campaign roundtable tomorrow. We'll just keep you posted. Follow us on Twitter, just follow me at GarrettArt. I'll let you know. Nonetheless, I guess, Tash, dude, you'll just have to do your best to put on your crazy conspiracy tinfoil hat and pretend to be Kyle.
Okay.
I was trying to make a joke there, and I was expecting you to do your best Kyle impression. And then we would laugh, and then we'd be like, okay, now it's time for World of Warcraft. But that failed, so I guess the only thing
Coming
to do is...
to you from a mountaintop in Chicago where lightning strikes from all directions.
That's more appropriate.
That's pretty spot on, actually. That was good. I approve, sir. So.
Thank you.
With that being said, coming to you from Chicago with lightning is this week's World of Warcraft news. Guys, we've been speculating for week after week after week about what the incredible, awesome, epic, unannounced feature that no one at Blizzard can stop talking about is for patch 5.4. And here it is, maybe the feature that they're talking about for 5.4.
Just before we talk about it, Ghostcrawler quickly qualified it on Twitter before it was announced, where he kind of went, maybe we shouldn't have been talking about it so much, trying to make it that big a deal.
Can we comment on that real quick? What were you thinking? You've only been stroking this thing into a microphone for the last 2 months.
I just love how they're like, well, pick the thing that you like the most that you hear about 5.4, and that's what the big feature is.
Wow.
I think those were their words, yeah.
You guys should run for president or something, because that's the most indecisive answer you could give us. I believe in children. Way to take a stand. You go.
It sounds like the whole Xbox announcement today. We believe in innovation. Oh, really?
Okay,
we believe in making fun games.
All right, you could get on Microsoft's case, but honestly, E3
oh, no,
is
they're
nothing
all
but
like that. It was just
a giant buzzword
scripted.
circle jerk. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was just kind of like, wow, really? You're just ahead of the curve, my friend.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Nothing. I saw nothing today that made me go, I need this system. Of course, Sony hasn't even gone live yet at the time of this recording. But there was another Halo confirmed, and that's really all I needed to know, even though they didn't say a damn thing about what to expect from the game.
Well, I could have told you that without any sort of E3 coming out.
I know.
Twitch and DVR features, I think. When they announced the DVR features during their horrible press announcement 2 weeks ago, like, they talked about it for 2 seconds, and I was like, there, that's it. That's what everyone needs to hear. And then they just went on, and it was like, no, that's actually really cool, and then they didn't talk about it.
Yeah,
so.
DVR4 gaming, pretty badass, actually, built directly into a console. And Twitch support, I am all for that. That was probably one of the few things I got the most excited for.
Now, I have to say, since Twitch has played such a role with, actually World of Warcraft and StarCraft, definitely StarCraft, but, I mean, there's probably more viewers for WoW most nights compared to StarCraft.
Is that
Man,
true?
I've tried to watch so many different WoW streams, and if it's like not like a world first kill, it's kind of like, oh, this is kind of boring. This is some guy eating lunch while he waits for his arena queue to pop. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's kind of like, oh, yeah.
Well, just think about the breadth, because I mean, we talk about the PC master race and everything, but as far as gaming's concerned, but think about the breadth of how many console gamers there are out there, and now just tell them, oh, here, you have a built-in streaming system. We're going to see an explosion on the Twitch. Twitch is going to be making so much money.
Yep, it's good for them.
And I mean, it opens up a lot of different avenues for console games to become sort of esports, where they wouldn't necessarily have considered it before because the infrastructure was lacking a little bit. Now it's something that a lot of game developers will take into consideration.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And apparently I jumped into World of Warcraft too early. We should have bantered at the top of the show about Xbox a bit. But hey, whatever. It's a free forum. We're not really paid by anyone.
Yeah. How about that Twitch stream? That's also used to show World of Warcraft.
Way to
elegant, right?
Loosely tie that into what we're talking about. I think we could, the three of us, I know, we could sit here and probably do an entire show about what we would like from Halo 5, but we're not going to do that. No. So.
Anyway.
How about that flex rating, guys?
Yeah, so this is what we're assuming is the feature. And basically the way it works is that they've introduced a new tier of rating, and it's going to be somewhere between LFR and normal 10-man difficulty, and it's meant to occupy the same sort of niche that you had in Wrath 10-man rating, which was, a good step easier than what it currently is.
Yeah.
And the really interesting aspect of it is that it will scale from anywhere from 10 to 25 players can go into this raid, and the difficulty will scale accordingly.
Yeah, which is just, I think this is great. What do you guys think? I mean, just because there's always that awkward thing with rating. It's just like, oh, we got 10 guys, and then like random Joe logs on. Hey, can I jump in? No, we're full.
Nope.
We're full, dude. Sorry.
Right.
Well, let me ask. Okay, how many of you two have actively managed a roster for rating before?
Both of us.
Yes.
Okay, let me make it go one step further. How about for 25 men?
No.
Yeah, a few times, yes. It's not fun.
I did that for 3 years straight through BC and Wrath for 25 man. Reading about this stuff was just like, I didn't know whether to just jump and skip and laugh or just cry over how difficult, thinking, oh, like a major source, probably one of the most significant sources of stress in my life for 3 years straight would have just been gone. Just nothing. No problems at all.
Well, there's still going to be
let's be clear. Everybody would have called you news because you're not doing the real content, all right? So,
especially back in Burning Crusade. Man, if this had come out in Burning Crusade, there would have been pitchforks and torches. Dude, cookie cutter, hand-holding, Care Bear bullshit. That's what we would have heard.
And, to an extent, this is kind of what you're hearing, too. But what's great is that it's, it's sort of more different stuff to do. Sorry about that.
Oh, we're taking live calls?
One of the things, there's people have talked about. I've heard kind of a discussion of. Well, one of people will say, okay, the difficult part of raiding is actually not necessarily actually being there and doing the content, but it's just getting a consistent roster with the correct people and people who are skilled enough and all these things. And they're not actually separate issues. They tie into each other, and they both lead into the same problems. And this is where flex rating becomes really amazing, because when you have issues with a roster and you're so limited, because it either has to be 25, which is a lot, or it has to be 10, which is restrictive, very specific, then what ends up happening is you actually end up pulling people in or excluding people who are good because of your roster limits. So now, and that makes the content more difficult, because you're sitting there going, oh great, we've got 10 people, and these 10 people have all been guaranteed a spot, and I can't bring in this other guy. Now imagine if you suddenly say, oh well, I need to bring in this other guy, and I know this other guy is going to consistently do over 100k DPS, and I'm making it 11-person difficulty, and that 11th person is really damn good. It fixes so many personnel issues, and which then allows you to simply focus on the content and actually accomplishing a fight. This is going to be, I can't stress enough how important this feature I think is going to be.
Oh yeah, it's a godsend to a lot of groups, that's for sure.
Agreed.
Because it solves not only what you were talking about, but it solves a bunch of other issues. So let's say you're running 10-man, right? You are functionally gearing people up in that 10-man, and you have a consistent group. But if a couple of people fall out of that, all of a sudden you have to replace them with somebody who's dramatically less geared, unless they're raiding in a separate raid, right? Mm-hmm. So this also assists with that. Like if you run, let's say, 2 lockouts, right? You're running this flex raid version, and you can consistently rotate people through it that are at not quite, but a very similar level at that point. And it's not quite the huge leap that it is from LFR to normal.
Now, both of you, I'm gonna just can I take the bad side of the coin?
Absolutely, go for it.
All right, Tash gave us the perfect scenario for why this is awesome. Now I'm gonna take that exact same scenario, but flip it. You've got 10 awesome guys, and that 11 person logs in that is a flaming turd of a player. And it's just like, oh, hey, guys, you're doing a flex raid. I'm going to jump in. Now you no longer have an excuse to politely deny them entrance into your raid.
That's true. But to an extent, you're also dealing with the slightly easier content.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it's not as... I mean, right now, 10-mans are not super forgiving. Like that's my experience in Mr. Pandaria has only been 10 men. I haven't done any proper 25-man raids, and I think that's a lot of people out there now. I think a lot of people have moved from 25-man raiding, unless you're in some really hardcore guilds. Mm-hmm. And so you can really tell if somebody's not pulling their weight. It has a big impact on how you play, and I'm hoping here it's just a little gentler, a little more forgiving.
Yeah, I would agree with that entirely. I raided with you guys for 3 months, and it was the first time I raided regularly since Lich King, and holy crap, was that a hard grind.
Right, and I mean, they upped the difficulty of 10-man. There's no question about it. They've even stated so. And, for us growing up in Wrath era raiding, it's kind of like, oh, this is different. All right.
Wow, and for us especially, it's just like, well, I also don't have as much time as I had during Wrath raiding, so this just seems like backwards thinking to me.
Right.
For me personally, for my life as it stands.
But so for the more casual end of the spectrum of possibly our specific age group of players who are getting older and have more stuff to do, this is a pretty great solution, because they still want a challenge. You know what I mean? LFR, nobody's pretending that's a challenge beyond the first week when just your group implodes and everybody gives up before the last boss. But this seems like it would still deliver on that aspect of it. It's going to require some level of organization to run properly. You can't go in with like 11 healers and 3 DPS and a tank. Like, it's probably not going to work, right?
Clearly, you don't have the 11 proper healers. See, if you had 11 Kyles in there who have a romance with Smite,
Yes.
you never know. Might work. Mixing a little holy fire there, and you're good to go.
Atonement priests. Jeez.
Not even holy spec, my friend.
Holy spec Smite, yeah.
Yeah,
Go.
going places with that.
Go, son. Poor Kyle. He's not even here to defend himself. But
It's a punching bag.
yeah. But yeah, good stuff. I'm all for this all around. Of course, this led into many Q&As on the subject of 5.4. We got some highlights from that. One person asked, new flex raids, what about boss mechanics? Low sense of accomplishment in LFR. They feel oversimplified or easily ignored. This is the Ghost Crawler, and he said, LFR is designed with the intent that you will finish it in one night. We want flex to be more traditional raiding, by which I mean that you might only get one new boss a week or so, assuming, of course, that you're the target audience for this new feature.
That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like all the mechanics will be intact. They'll probably just be a little bit gentler than regular 10-man or regular 25-man or whatever it may be. Just scaled down slightly in stuff like incoming damage, for instance, or DPS requirements.
Now, my one...
Go on.
I was going to say, my one question is this like traditional raiding, or is this like LFR? And by that I mean, in LFR, it's broken up into chunks, and you can choose to jump into the middle of the raid. Are you going to be able to do that in Flex Raid?
I don't believe so.
Okay, that's the only thing where I'm kind of disappointed.
Why?
Because I'm at best I can raid once a week, so it'd be nice if once we have the first half on farm to just skip it entirely on a new lockout. Because how do you LFR? Do you go back and play the first half of something you don't even need the gear for?
But think about, this is for the Orgrimmar raid.
Mm-hmm.
This is not. I'm sorry to jump ahead on the note there, but we'll come back to this. But this is for the Orgrimmar raid. This is not for current stuff, and they've already been talking about how they might want to return to the whole wing idea, and that they.
That's a very good point.
Almost forgot about it. It seemed for Throne of Thunder. So we might see that returning in 5.4's raid, and therefore we might be meeting you halfway with what you want.
Yeah, you'll still be locked out of the final boss though if it works like every other winged raid has ever worked.
Sure. Which is fine with me personally. I don't mind that. Also, the way I feel 10-man loot distribution tends to go, or 25-man loot distribution tends to go, you end up with a lot of stuff like not dropping off the first few bosses that you want, and quite a few people still needing things. Right? It took us a long time to actually get to the point where the first boss no longer had anything useful for anyone in the group.
Or that it finally stopped dropping like agility leather with no agility leather users in the raid. Sure,
and the way they've implemented crafting mats too now make it so that I'm hoping that if you disenchant flex raid stuff, unlike LFR stuff, that you'll have a higher chance of getting crafting materials, because then it makes it much more lucrative, because they're very expensive right now. So whatever the Orgrimmar equivalent it will be, it'll still be sort of worthwhile to sort of go through that real quick, collect the Valor, get some crafting mats, and then move on. If you have it on farm, it's on farm.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I'm just for my time allotment, I just think it'd be nice, but it's not a make or break. It's just I'm trying to see what the next logical step is, or what some of the possible suggestions might be, and that was the first thing that popped into my head. It was like, man, I'd love it if I could jump in with a pre-made 10-man halfway through the raid. I'd love that. But I don't know how many people would agree with me. It sounds like neither of you do.
Not really. It just sounds like you don't have a lot of time. No. You want LFR with a challenge, basically.
Right.
LFR with defense and a challenge.
And I don't see why not.
Right. Well, I mean, you start introducing a really, really high level of granularity. I mean, we've got, currently 5 different level. I mean, we've got LFR, we've got 10-man, 25-man, we've got heroic versions of both of those. Mm-hmm. So that makes a 5. With this, it'll be 6, right? So we'll have 6 levels of difficulty for the same raid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There are 6 different scales of the same raid, introducing additional things on top of that. Like, somewhere in there has to be a balance for what you're looking for. And I think Wings is an elegant solution to that. If you only have to kill the first 2 bosses or whatever to get to the other wing, then it's much less of a big deal.
I think about how Ice Crown used to be, where towards the end there, when people started making a lot of pugs to run it, and it was, well, we're going to go do this, the beginning, and then we're going to do this wing and this wing, or these 3 wings, but we're not doing that other, final wing, because you could be pretty sure that those wings are always going to be on farm for most pugs, and it just made it real easy and very easy to break down,
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's just my what I would like to see.
And I wouldn't be surprised if you could just save a lockout like you could with normal raids right now.
I'm assuming that's how it works. If it's not the case, I'd be surprised and actually somewhat like, what the hell, why not?
Right. But it seems like you're still very much responsible for keeping a good balance as far as your group ratios go. You know what I mean? Like, you can't walk in there with 4 tanks and hope it goes well. So there is some level of responsibility there, but with the amount of dual specs that you have now and with the ease that it's gotten to with LFR, being able to gear up a separate spec is much less painful.
Yeah, that's another one of the questions that came up, was how healer ratios, what's going on with that? And Ghostcrawler said, bring as many as you want, but he would start at 2 or 3 if you have 10, and maybe add 1 more healer for every 5 that you add on to that.
That makes a lot of sense. One thing I'm not 100% sure on is how loot works. I think it works in a very similar manner to LFR. Am I correct?
Everyone gets their own individual loot.
Okay.
You're rolling against the boss. You're not rolling against each other.
That's a shame.
My understanding is, from the way a lot of Ghostcrawler's answers, there's a whole list of these, and these are kind of the most interesting. But a lot of this stuff is still up in the air, really up in the air. And
well, that's what the PTR is for, is to see how this works in a player environment.
Yeah, and half of his answers were like, this is currently the plan, however you make a good point, and I will talk to the other devs about it. So, a lot of that was going on because the comment was made, well, but if we are in a pre-made group, then, and granted, I understand why they would do individual loot, because it could get really tricky, and a lot of people are going to be, well, can you imagine there's going to be a theory crafting forum figuring out the formulas for exactly how
your most efficient person to loot ratio?
Exactly. There's going to be
if we bring
an
the 13th person, we can get an extra loot drop. I'm just saying.
Exactly. So we just have to have that one guy, But if we bring the 13th person, the boss takes 30 more seconds on average to kill, so then
right. Exactly.
So, but I can understand why they did it individual, but on the other hand, the person who was asking the question was saying, we want to be able to gear up people, this is flexible, it's friends and family, we want to be able to trade loot around. So maybe they'll do personal drops, maybe they'll actually allow you to trade. I don't know, these are all ideas he was floating around.
I think that's a very important aspect of being in the difference between LFR and a proper raid like that is being able to trade that loot. Being able to gear a group rather than gear an individual, if that makes sense. And also, you're guaranteed at least 2 loot drops per boss, as opposed to LFR, where there's a decent chance and nobody gets anything. There's no given thing, but this helps. Let's say you're bringing in a new person, you're 10-man, and you need to gear them up quickly. It means you can go back, run a flex raid, with whoever's on, and focus loot on them. It solves a lot of problems, potentially.
Yeah, but I think it's the same, like we mentioned earlier, taking away that and making it add X amount of drops per player opens up a whole new window.
Well, there's ways they can sort of obfuscate that too. I mean, you could do that to an extent, like for every 5 players that happens, but maybe like for each player that you add to it, it increases percentage, like a percentage chance of an extra item dropping.
Even if it doesn't matter, if it's guaranteed to even give you a possibility of more drops, it's still going to affect players in the same way.
Well, not really, because what happens is that the frightening part is that you'll have you always have less items dropping than you have players in the raid, right? If you make it something like, you've got a 10% chance increase of an extra item dropping for each person in the raid, all of a sudden each person is contributing individually. You no longer have to, there's no breakpoints like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I'm just saying, still, even if it's only whatever the case.
Right, but it will
You add one
scale
more player.
with the number of people there.
Yeah, I still think it'll have
But
the
it
same
will
effect.
scale evenly is my point. The real big fear will be that if there is a breakpoint where you're guaranteed an extra item, like if you have 13 people, that's when you get into trouble because that's when you start stacking your number specifically, right? If the other option is just, hey, bring as many people as you can because that'll give you the best option, that's fine, right? That doesn't actually hurt the way you raid. You're not excluding people then. Mm-hmm. You're not going, actually, you know what, we'll just raid with 13 instead of 14 because this increases our ratio of loot to players.
Okay. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's still, whatever the case. I don't know. Personally, for me, I think it sounds like a lot less of a headache for everyone to just have their individual loot tables.
As a raid leader, I completely disagree. It's so much more frustrating dealing with something like LFR, whereas when you actually have, the boss actually drops loot, you can solve so many more problems.
All right.
If this is a consistent thing, as opposed to people's individual things, there's nothing more frustrating than going, oh, great, I got the Helm again for the 9th time in a row, and I totally wasted a coin on it. Like, that's just stupid. Like, that's not helping anyone.
Here's something that's going to affect this discussion. How important a role gear upgrades will play in progressing through flex raid difficulty. Because if this is something that you can walk into with, let's say, completely outfitted, you're completely outfitted with LFR gear from Throne of Thunder, or maybe a little bit higher via the Valor purchases, and you're able to walk into flex raiding and you really are able to clear it unless you're very terabad, then the loot is more of a reward. And what I'm saying is that gearing the group up as quickly as possible becomes less important.
Right. Well, then that's an on-case basis, though.
And that's heavily based on a few things, including player skill and the fact that they're saying the specific target audience for this, you might be killing a boss a night, right? Which changes that circumstance a little bit. It doesn't sound like you're going to cruise in there and full clear everything in one go, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know. We'll really have to see how this ends up panning out. But personally, I would very much like it if the group, at least the loot was tradable. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That would have such a big impact rather than just stuff going to waste. It feels bad. Like it's not a rewarding play mechanic. Like if that happens, like in LFR, it works fine because it's anonymous, right? You're not feeling bad for all those other players who didn't get this stupid item that you got for the 11th time.
There are starving noobs in the Barrens that could really use that gear.
Oh, I'm sure there are. But my point being, you don't know any of them personally. You're not sitting in vent with them, right?
Hey, here's his answers. Not for 5.4, but if they're okay. Well, the question was, Flex will use personal loot to avoid pug drama. Is it possible to let raid lead pick to use real loot system if just friends? So his answers were not for 5.4, but if there is demand, we can look into adding the more traditional raid loot systems. We don't currently have a system that lets a boss drop more loot that scales with size other than personal loot. The problem is the scaling size. We don't want any pressure to not invite someone for fear of less loot. To not invite someone? Okay.
Well, that's the breakpoints that I was talking about.
Yeah. So they have if there's demand. Well, it says not for 5.4, but if there's demand, they could look into adding it. And it sounds like they may have some technical issues with doing this.
We're back to the backpack problem.
Well, yeah, sure. But I mean, it's certainly something that if there is demand in 5.4, that for the next expansion could definitely be solved. There's no question about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a long-running, this is looking way out. It's the same way, when they introduced LFR was right at the end of Cataclysm.
And it was it was a mess, man.
Right, but it's so important, I think, to this expansion. It's a major feature for many completely. Players. And it sounds like this flex rating thing could be, well, let's just aim high. This could be the thing that solves rating issues with WoW. Who knows? It's
At the end of the
for,
day,
for
it's
casual raiders, I could definitely see that.
it's bringing the social aspect that we've been talking about has been being lost little by little. It's bringing it back, and it's putting a spotlight on it. And as far as I'm concerned, that's great. The little nitpicky stuff that we're discussing, it's very interesting. But at the end of the day, I think this is a very positive thing for the game.
Oh yeah, no
stoked.
doubt about that. I don't care which way it ends up panning out. Like, this is definitely going to be a net positive. There's no way this will, like, I don't see this being a tremendous negative impact in any way, shape, or form. The one argument that I've heard is that, oh, if I'm a progression raider, if my guild wants to take me seriously, I've got to do this extra lockout. I think that's a slightly problematic argument.
Well, then you're in the wrong guild because they're obviously not catering to how you want to play the game.
Right. So I think that's a little bit of a problematic argument. I see a lot of rushing for this, when it first releases to fill in gear gaps for progression guilds. But I don't see anything inherently wrong with that.
No, neither do I. So, sounds great. All for it. Bring it on.
Yep.
Also, we got a sneak peek via MMO Champion. This is not official, of the Battle.net desktop client. Talked a little bit about this on StarCast this past Thursday, so if you want to hear Kyle's thoughts on the matter, listen to it there. He's very excited. He's been basically wanting Blizzard Steam for a while now, and that's
basically what this is.
Yeah, that's my easy way of explaining this. Obviously, it's not exactly the same. We're not going to have the amazing summer sales that Steam has. But when you've only got 3 major IPs,
20% off on a server transfer. Have fun.
Well, dude, they had those 50% off over the weekend, and actually that's pretty badass. Especially considering how many times I've swapped servers. But MMO Champion they had an extensive data mining article on this subject. Apparently this has been internally tested at Blizzard for quite a while now, and it's going to function much like all of the launchers that we currently have for Diablo, StarCraft, and World of Warcraft, except it will be the same launcher for every game. You basically, instead of having all the icons for all the Blizzard games, you're just going to have this one thing, the Battle.net icon. You open it up, and you can launch any of the games you want from there. You'll be able to do, Real ID, Battle Tag, chat directly from the client. So I'll be able to get on. I'll just be able to open up my Battle.net client and be like, oh, Tash and Ben are both playing Diablo. I guess I'll get in Diablo and go smash some heads instead of getting into World of Warcraft, seeing who's on, and then picking my game from there.
Well, or you can message us and say, hey, do you have room for a third before I jump into the game and have that awkward, oh, I'm here, invite me,
everyone dies.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, this is...
No, sorry, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good stuff. A lot of stuff still kind of up in the air. Apparently, you can opt in to beta test this thing, which interesting.
Let's be honest. Do either of you guys really care about this?
I do want it. Yes. Okay. Am I as excited about this as I would have liked they came out tomorrow and said, this is what Titan will be? No. But this is a quality of life improvement, and please get it here quick.
Yeah, okay. No, fair enough. Small quality of life improvement.
Yeah. If you play all 3 Blizzard games, this will be nice. If you only play StarCraft, or if you only play Warcraft, it will make no difference to you. So, go.
I'm curious if there's going to be any integration eventually down the road with something like the whole mods for StarCraft and stuff like that. You know how they're talking about making a what's it called? A marketplace for it.
Yeah,
is that the game yet properly or no?
No.
Okay, it's not a super obvious thing that I completely missed. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, they revamped the arcade, but you still can't. There's no way for people to make stuff and sell it.
Right, but I could definitely see there being an integration with this rather than through the StarCraft client.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I still wish they allowed mods for Diablo 3. I'm kind of sad they never let that happen.
Yeah.
I know it's obviously a crap ton more work on their end, but...
Well, I mean, so much of the environment is procedural and stuff too, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the way it handles the environment is totally different from a lot of other games.
Yeah, I guess it's a good point, because StarCraft actually is full 3D, whereas Diablo, since it's that isometric view, which so is StarCraft, but the way in Diablo, they cheated a lot of that. A lot of it's art. A lot of it's 2D on a vague 3D surface.
Sure, but it's also very modular. Like you'll never play the same map twice, really.
Exactly.
And just the way it handles all that stuff is different than making a map per se.
Right. So, anyways, very cool. Looking forward to it. Anywho, let's talk some StarCraft, shall we, guys? WCS just finished its first season of WCS. I was going to say it's like in full swing, but it finished being in full swing, so it just finished its first full swing. And it was a terrible segue. Yes, WCS Season 1 Finals happened this past weekend. This is the culmination of WCS Europe, WCS America, and WCS Korea, the top players from all three regions, all of which were Korean with the exception of like 2 players.
There was Damaga
and TLO. And that's it, right?
I never would have guessed it, that racial breakdown at the end of the series. That's interesting. Huh.
Yeah. It was a weird finals. I mean, okay, let's be honest. Round of 4, match 2 was the finals, right?
Yes.
Let's be honest. I mean...
Yeah, okay, so here's how... I actually still haven't had a chance to watch the actual finals.
Oh, neither have I.
Because
Jeez.
I've been...
Don't even waste your time.
That's all I've heard. Everyone I've talked to has said, "Oh, you haven't seen the finals? Don't watch them. If you only just go watch MVP versus Innovation." That's what everyone has told me. They're like, it's just finals. It's Innovation raffle stomping SOS. Go watch MVP versus Innovation.
I'm sure you could learn a thing or two from Innovation's TVP, but it's like a one-sided smackdown. It looks like he was beating up a small child. It just didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is so funny because. We just had the GSL finals 2 weeks ago. We had Innovation versus Sulky, which is just insane finals. Sulky with his come from behind reverse all kill on Innovation.
Right. Well, I mean, let's be honest. SOS totally on tilt. If you guys haven't seen it, the last game is actually super good. Okay. He actually starts like you go, oh, is this going to be another reverse all kill? But in the end, like Innovation manages to win it. But it's there's a couple of like good games in there, but most of them not so much.
Okay, I got you.
MVP versus Innovation, however,
this is the best TVT I've ever seen.
Might be the best TVT of all time.
It's not a might. It just is. This is the best TVT to date.
Well, I'm glad that I paid $5 for that OGN thing, so I can actually go look at the VOD now.
I think this is on GOM because GOM hosted this.
Why was I watching it on?
Oh,
it might be in
maybe they did it on both then. I don't know.
No, I was watching it on OGN.
Oh, okay. I watched it on GOM, so there you go. So, nonetheless,
it is so good.
So
good. Clash of the Titans, to say the least.
Yeah. Can we just talk about Game 2?
Yeah,
briefly. This isn't usually the esports like freak out show, but the WCS is just, I mean, what did we say when WCS was announced? We talked about all the flack, all the negativity, and I think we summed it up by saying at the end of the day, this is probably going to lead to some just holy shit amazing games, and it looks like we're correct because we've. Do you guys watch any round of 8? Of the season 1 of this actual final, no.
Yeah, no, okay, because it was mostly one-sided Smackdowns. It wasn't like super. Oh wow, these games are all amazing. Like it's gonna.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the groups, we were looking at the groups on StarCast on Thursday, and it would look like it was going to be a Smackdown. Every single like TLO and Stefano and Damaga were all in groups with like they were either in Innovation or Sulky's group. So you're like, well, they're dead.
Right.
They're not making it out, and they didn't.
Was it TLO Alive? Sulky and who? Somebody else.
No, I don't know off the top of my head.
Was it Damaga? No, it wasn't Damaga.
Damaga was in a different group all by
itself. It was the other foreigner. Who was the other foreigner?
It was Stefano, TLO Alive, and Sulky.
Stefano.
It's Group A.
Stefano last in this group.
Yeah. I can't believe it.
It was just awkward.
It's ridiculous. Granted, I think TLO beat Stefano at one point too, but TLO has had this weird just wind in his sails lately that came out of nowhere I was expecting. He's been doing very well considering.
I like him so much as a player, like as a personality.
I would say I like him just as a person. Every interview I've ever seen of the guy, I'm just like, please just keep talking.
Yeah, he's such like a pleasant dude. It's just like out of all the different players, some of them are just super irritating or just very shy. Like he's just so easy to like, if that makes sense. And then he plays really well, which helps.
He has good sarcasm, but he's also extremely self-deprecating.
Right.
And then he'll flip around and just be like super confident right after that. So it's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's always one of the ones where if you go to an MLG or whatever, he's very awesome with like fans and stuff. So he just has an all-around good reputation.
I think Artosis specifically mentioned that he was the player with the single best like state of mind concerning the game, or like the healthiest state of mind. Which I find interesting when you see that as a like in context.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think back to when Wings first came out. He was like one of the true innovators at the time that like everyone was going and watching his VODs because he was doing the crazy
he was fun to watch. Like it wasn't necessarily like dramatically better play, but he was super entertaining, right?
Well, it's one of the things where they talk about a lot of Korean players. They practice really hard, but a lot of times players are looking at other people's builds. They're taking pieces of other people's builds and refining them, whereas people like TLO, White Raw would be another one. They will just create builds out of nothing. They just from scratch, completely from scratch, and they're just like, oh, I want to play with this unit in this game, so I'm going to make a build that just lets me do that and screw everything else. And then they make this build and then everyone's like, I don't know where this comes from. Like, why is he using this unit? Oh, he has a build that it works with, you know. And but most players don't practice that way. They kind of they do refine their builds, but I don't think they really create a lot of them from scratch the way that someone like TLO does.
I think that was definitely true at the beginning of Wings. I think that is no longer really true in the Korean scene. I mean, if you look at the really, truly top players, a lot of them are innovators. If you look at people like Parting and Squirtle, for instance, like they're just geniuses when it comes to this kind of thing, right? And they bounce off each other clearly a lot. But, I mean, those guys, I think, dramatically change the format. And when it comes to stuff like this, I think people like MVP and Innovation are in the same boat. I think they are very much matchup defining in the way they play,
which was very apparent in this mirror matchup.
Right, and mind you, I would even put SOS up there because some of that stuff was just like, wow, okay.
Oh, he's just because he didn't do phenomenal.
Yeah, he choked.
Innovation
I
in
mean,
the
he
finals.
Clearly choked because he just beat the crap out of Sulky. Like,
yeah, he just beat the GSL champion.
Yeah,
he just beat the guy who just beat Innovation.
Right.
It's ridiculous, which is that's what I love about the Korean scene is it's ridiculous. It's not like one person is on top and that is it. Like normally you'd be like, oh well, Sulky just beat Innovation and SOS just beat Sulky. Clearly SOS must be the best player, right? No, because then Innovation goes on to win the Season 1 finals. I love it. It's like it is just this. Everyone's at each other's throats. If you win, you are now you've got the biggest target on your back. Everyone is pulling up your VODs and sharing them with everyone. Every team is now collectively putting their brains together to figure out how to pick you apart.
Oh, it's like being a gunslinger in a small western town, Old West or something.
Yeah, StarCraft. It becomes a posse environment.
Yeah,
Who won the GSL? Round up the posse.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
except it works on all sides like this, and there's like some truly stellar play right now, and I'm so glad MVP is up there with them. I'm just so happy that he's still dominant.
Yeah, he's coming back in because he, without a doubt, the most accomplished StarCraft 2 player historically.
And one thing we haven't really mentioned so far is that I think like Game 1 was just incredible on both sides with MVP and Innovation, and then Game 2 was probably the most impressive comeback I've ever seen.
He was down. Okay, for those of you who aren't going to go watch this, Innovation did so much harass early on. MVP was down to 9 workers.
Oh, when he should have had about 40.
Right. And Innovation, well, I think it was like in the high 20s. I think Innovation was on like 27, and MVP was on 9. Somehow, by some Korean magic, MVP stayed in this game. Yeah. And then not only did he stay in it, then he equalized, then he rolled over Innovation and won.
Yeah. In a super long macro game, too. It wasn't... That's what happens when you make MVP mad. It's just not good.
This is the first game since I can't remember one that I want to go back and watch again.
I've watched it again.
You did watch it. That's great. That's wonderful.
It's just super good. It's just all around incredible.
Yeah,
the whole series is like that.
Exactly.
They're so evenly matched. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, Innovation ended up winning it, but MVP,
it could have gone either way so easily.
Exactly. MVP really does deserve just as much praise, if not more, because of that comeback. It was ridiculous, and he's been recovering from an injury, and he hasn't been at the top of his game lately, and he's just come back and swing it.
I think he just was nice enough to let Innovation win it so he could get his finals.
He was nice enough to go play in Europe as opposed to Korea just to give Innovation a chance.
Which clearly has not dulled his edge.
No, not at all. We were ripping on him on StarCast on Thursday. We're like, all the Koreans who are playing in Europe and America, they're really just the Koreans who can't hack it in GSL.
Let's be clear. LOL Europe, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Oh my God. MVP, man. I'm such a big fan of his. So I'm like I said last week, I for one welcome our new Terran Overlord Innovation, but I would not mind to see our previous Terran Overlord return.
Yep, our Terran Dynamic duo.
Exactly, and it's just to sell this a little bit longer, or a little bit more, and we'll move on. I know a lot of people are adverse to watching matchups that do not include a race that they play. I, for one, avoid PvPs like the plague, but I implore you to, at the very least, just watch Game 2 of MVP versus Innovation. I don't care if you don't even have the remotest interest in Terran. This is just a damn good StarCraft.
Yeah, I mean, if the whole WCS led up to this, I'm fine. I'm totally happy with that. I'm good.
Yeah, very, very good stuff. So, and hey, congrats to SOS because Soul Key knocked him out before the finals of GSL. So,
yep,
I'm sure he was very happy.
They're teammates, right?
I believe so.
Yep.
Off the top of my head, they're both on Wongjun Star. Yes.
Yeah. They've been having a good week.
They're they're kind of a good team. Yeah. Just putting it out there. So cool shit, man. Also cool, the spawning feature was announced this last week. And this was a feature that existed in original StarCraft and Brood War, where you're at a LAN party, let's pass the disc around everyone, and you would basically spawn a fully playable version of Brood War so that everyone can jump on LAN together and play each other. And Blizzard is now adding that feature into StarCraft 2, into Heart of the Swarm. It just doesn't require a disc. You can do it via the internet and using the starter edition of StarCraft, which is free. Currently lets you play as only Terran, and you can do versus AI and stuff. But the way the spawning feature works is it works through grouping up or partying. So say, Tash, this is a lie, because obviously you own StarCraft, but you're cheap or don't believe in Blizzard games fully, so you just have the StarCraft 2 Starter Edition.
RTS? What's that? God. I just play RPGs.
FPS, man. I want to play Call of Duty. I don't know why I said it like a dumb idiot, because I play a lot of Call of Duty, but... So let's say you have the Starter Edition. We both get on, and you're like, hey, Karen, I want to play with you. So we party up. I have Heart of the Swarm. You have the Starter Edition. Bam, you have access to all of the Heart of the Swarm units for Terran. And we can ladder together, 2v2, 3v3, 4v4. We can do the arcade, and we can do custom games. Mm-hmm. So, very cool feature. And I believe until tomorrow, it'll actually let you play as all three races. But permanently it'll just be one race, and they also announced that the race for the Starter Edition will at some point be fluctuating. They will at some point make it Zerg and one point make it Protoss, but it'll only ever be one race that you can choose.
I could definitely see it being the whatever is the current expansion that's out.
Does anyone know how difficult it is to actually install the Starter Edition? Is it what size of download it is, that sort of thing?
I think it's the size of the full game, because if you go to upgrade, you're just good. You just pay, and it's instantly you can just start playing.
Okay, because otherwise I'm thinking
it's not that big.
I brought my gaming laptop or something, and then oh well, wait, we're all gonna play StarCraft here tonight. You don't have StarCraft? Oh, well, download this.
Well,
that's gonna take.
It's not that big. And besides, otherwise spawning wouldn't work, because then you'd have to re-download all the stuff you just unlocked.
Yeah.
Right.
So either
that's
way,
true.
the only way it works is by having all that stuff already on the computer, just behind a code wall, essentially. So I'm all for it, and it's not like WoW. We're not talking a 50 gigabyte download.
Right.
I think it's like 6 or something. It's not huge, and with today's internet speeds, it's not that big of a deal. So.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
But it's cool. I'm all for it. And you can get a new portrait if you go spawn someone up.
Oathmaster brings up a good point in the chat. He's saying that it'll stream in the background a lot like WoW's client does.
Oh, that's a good point too. Yeah.
So you don't actually have to have it completely downloaded and installed before you start playing.
Right. Yeah. You just grab the installer off of Battle.net, which is tiny, and you just start running it.
And then it'll download a chunk of it, and then you can start playing, but it'll continue to download content in the background.
Yep. It's good stuff. Blizzard thought of all of this. You're all dumb. Like we're all of us.
You get to cause everybody else at your LAN party to lag badly.
If Noob over here wasn't streaming the download, I wouldn't have lost that 6-pull. No, you lost that 6-pull because you're bad. Let's be honest here. Calm down. So, and then finally, in minor news, WCS finally has a dedicated website from Blizzard, and it doesn't suck. It actually has all of the information you could ever want. It's updated almost as fast as Liquipedia. Which isn't a slight against them. Liquipedia actually has precogs from Minority Report that know the results before the results actually happen. So no dissing on them. I don't know where Team Liquid has their pool of shaven, weird-looking people that apparently make prophecies in the wooden balls, but
why do they have to sit in a tub all day? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. Why do they make prophecies on wooden balls when you got all these ballin'-ass computers with gloves and touchscreens around? Would someone explain that to me? It's like freaking bingo.
Whoa, I just realized something that this website is missing.
What's that?
Spoiler-free switches.
Yes, that has been one.
And it's right on the front page. I mean, I open this up and it's like, you are watching WCS American Challenger League Group A. Oh, hey, here's all the standings up to this point that all happened today.
Do you go to ESPN and not expect to see who just won the football game?
Right.
ESPN?
I mean, this is...
Exactly. See?
But I mean, this is clearly a place that you go to catch up on the standings. There's not a lot of other information on
everything
here, right?
is that WCS Today show, which just launched last week, which is nothing but a recap of everything that just happened.
It's true. Although this is well, it's nice that they finally got this, like the stream is right here. It's right on the page. It's easy. You don't have to find it. It's just there. And I understand why they did that. I'm just sitting there going, what if I'm trying to catch up on WCS? Well, you know what I'd have to see? I'd have to see what this looks like when the stream is done.
You go to Reddit/r/spoilerfreesc. That's what you do.
Right. Or SC2 links.
Mm-hmm. So,
but this seems like a place that you go to find out whatever the standings are, right? You want to find out who has the most global points, right? I mean, this is the place to do it. And actually, it's really nicely laid out. Like these are some of the first digestible brackets that I found on any actual tournament website where you don't have to hunt for them, and it's not like what's going on and I don't know how to interpret this and I'm going to need a graphing calculator or I don't, here it's just actually neatly laid out and it's very digestible and it makes a lot of sense. Also, in all fairness, the tournament is over, right?
Right.
So we'll see what
season 1 is over.
Sure, season 1 is over.
Already into season 2 qualifiers.
Yep. MVP second in
points.
In total points. I did not realize that.
Yeah.
Yep. Those points are important. What does it matter? Come on, I'm calling it now. The finals, we're going to get to BlizzCon. It's going to be like Innovation Sulky, SOS MVP, and
Alive is Hero is 5th. Jeez.
Mm-hmm. Well, Hero won.
He won America, right?
America, yeah. Because he's American.
Right.
Yes.
So American.
I like how Kaldor adopted MVP and started calling him Jürgen. He's German now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I love when they were doing the intros on in the finals, and it's like, Hero from America. Well, he's not really American. He's just
every single time. He's not really American, right?
For everyone out there, he's not American. He just won America. No,
Yeah,
it doesn't
that
make
was
sense.
a
No,
little
we
bit
don't know
interesting.
why.
Right.
It's like all I could think of the whole time.
So do you guys feel like the fact that a bunch of Koreans have qualified from Europe and America, do you think it's hurt the game in any way?
I think it's hurt the local game.
I think
Uh,
it's an opportunity cost. I don't think anyone's sitting there going, "Wow, this whole American portion just sucks." Like, it's not so much that; it's think what it could have been.
Which is what, a whole bunch of Americans losing in the round of 8 or round of 16
Yeah.
or whatever?
Yeah,
Okay.
At
exactly.
the end of the year, but at least for the ride, we have every other sport is regionalized, so I don't know why StarCraft should be any different.
Because this is the World Championships.
That's
Is literally
fine. So
the
you should still
single goal is to find out who the best player is.
and it'll still happen at the end. I don't see why we can't enjoy our North American party.
But even so, I mean, you start to get into really weird territory when you start trying to limit people, like from.
I can
free
give you a reason why it shouldn't be regionalized, because I actually wrote a paper on this. So
Oh, well, excuse me.
yeah,
Please, let's hear your thesis.
well, no. So I wrote a paper basically on language and StarCraft for like a linguistic anthropology thing, and one of the points that I brought up in the paper was the idea that normally with physical sports and physical interaction, you've got an ocean in between you, or you've got a border, a political border, or something like that. So it slows these sorts of interactions down. But we're talking about esports. This is electronics.
Right.
I mean, if you're in Europe, it's difficult to play on the Korean server, but that's about it. Is time zones.
Right. Let's be clear. The level of difficulty being it's a little bit laggier than what I'm used to.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right, this is not right.
So I guess what I'm saying is there's the primary reason for regionalizing becomes less of it's less based on, hey, we have to get a whole team from this area of the globe to that area of the globe to play here consistently, and then the primary reason for regionalizing for esports would be for camaraderie and rooting and for a local team, which is still a good reason. But once you start to remove those boundaries, because this is an electronic sport, like, things get a little bit weird with regionalization. So
yeah, completely. And I mean, you're building. I mean, when it boils down to it, it is a meritocracy. There's functionally nothing that's preventing a European player from playing better than a Korean player.
That's not what I'm arguing about at all.
No, but my point being, like, the quote opportunity cost that's lost is debatable at best. Like, right now, the only reason that there would be a gained opportunity for European or American players is if they're playing worse than the Korean players they would have to compete against, right?
I'm talking about
About what?
about growing the scene, getting new people interested. I think you stand better chance of growing esports in America if you can point someone and say, here is the American League, here's the best player in America, which, as many issues I had with last year's WCS, the one thing I loved is that we had regionalized finals and it was like, oh, this is the best player in North America, this is the best player in Canada, this is the best player in South America. And I think that did a lot for the local appreciation of esports. And I think now that we just have a giant pool of dominating Koreans, that it's harder to get new people interested in esports.
I inherently disagree with that. I don't think that has as big an impact as you thought. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think being able to go. I don't think being, oh, this guy is the best from Argentina. Like, they're gonna go, all right, that's cool. Like, it's not gonna really change behavior.
It was
right?
like, it was basically countries.
What about countries?
It wasn't like the best. It was South America, North America, Canada. It wasn't like the best player of Alabama. You're cutting it down too much.
Okay, the best player in Canada, which is what, 5 different possibilities? I mean, let's be clear. Like, there's not a lot of options there. It doesn't, and if you tell somebody, you tell a Canadian guy, right, this is the best player in Canada, is it going to change the way they view StarCraft?
Yes.
You
absolutely.
think so? I completely disagree on that.
Well, neither of you watch real sports. So
No,
it's
I,
hard
I
to.
absolutely agree that the regionalization was amazing for the first WCS, and even though obviously thinking about, say, sorry for people who are from Argentina, but if Argentina has a really small esports scene and there's only one or two players that are legitimately going to be able to compete at that level, even though that's completely different from, say, the North American scene or specifically just the US scene, I was still super invested in the US tournament just because it was the US tournament. However, I understand that there's definitely reasons why Blizzard didn't continue to do it that way, and I think a lot of it comes down to basically it's bang for the buck. It's budget. It's what they can accomplish with a probably actually an unreasonable amount of money, and so I understand why it's different this time. I think this might be kind of an unsolvable question.
Yeah, well, I think part of the issue too is that you don't, like, Blizzard doesn't get to make the choice to limit people's freedom of movement, right? They don't get to go, oh well, you're not actually allowed to play in Korea, right? Because you're not Korean. So does that mean like no foreigners are allowed to compete in the GSL because it's part of WCS? Like, how do you manage that, right?
You get into then my other issue, which is I don't think they should have piggybacked on the back of existing tournaments, which is a whole nother can of worms I don't even really feel like opening.
Well, this gives the existing tournaments serious legitimacy. It makes them have. Right. No, but I mean, it gives other existing tournaments serious legitimacy. Sure, they pick GSL right now because it's the biggest and the best thing right out there, right? But the other tournaments that are influencing WCS, right,
are all already legitimate. There's not a single one right.
No, but it gives it more legitimacy and gives it more impact. So, like, a win or a loss at one of these tournaments is far more consequential now because of these point standings than they were before. Right? Getting to the round of 4 at a specific tournament before was kind of like, all right, whatever, I guess you get a small payout. It's no big deal. Now it dramatically increases your chances of getting into the WCS. And also, like, when you're talking about the sort of level of, I don't know if patriotism is the right word, but sort of support for your home team, whatever it may be, right? I think that's much less of an issue when you look at something where the athletes are individuals, right? Rather than teams. Like, a team from a region is much easier to root for because they're specifically regional. Whereas, you look at tennis, you look at Roger Federer, not his only fans are not Swiss people, right? You have to look at it from a different perspective because they are specific individuals or personalities that you're dealing with rather than a team of people.
Okay. You lost me slightly when you mentioned tennis because I don't think I've ever watched it, but
whatever it may be, right? You start looking at, let's say, golf, right?
A lot of Olympic sports.
Right, exactly. A lot of Olympic sports outside of the Olympics, if you follow them outside of that specific venue, all of a sudden country becomes much less of an issue, right? You follow your favorite golf pro, you don't follow your country's golf pro, right? Does that make sense? Like, the whole rooting for your home team or your home country comes from a venue where that has far more impact. That's my opinion. I don't know if I'm right there, but I find that the way people focus on specific individual athletes rather than like outside of team-based sports is different. And this is clearly not a team-based sport, right? I mean, there is teams that support each other, but it's not a team that's winning. It's not Woongjin that won, right?
Could be arguable.
Sure, but I mean,
I don't think Soki would have done as well if he didn't have Flash to practice against.
Oh no, of course. But every athlete has his support structure,
right?
You know what I mean? Like that doesn't. You don't exist without that. Yeah. But you're not like going, oh, good job, coach, you won, right? I mean, that's not happening. It's the athlete that won, and in this case, it's the player that won. You go, Soki won or Innovation won. You don't go, right? Is it STX? Right. I guess.
Right. Well, it basically, you asked what was my opinion, and my opinion is I feel that we lost what was my favorite thing of WCS last year.
Right, because it wasn't, frankly, much else to like.
No, it was pretty awful. It was pretty goddamn awful. Especially the finals. Jesus Christ, Blizzard, you should still I hope you still go to bed crying because those finals were so terribly put on.
Right. And, when there is a foreigner in the GSL, and everybody is rooting for them, they are rooting for them to do really well, not just be there, right? They want them to dominate. Like that's the sort of hope and dream of every foreigner watching the GSL. And when I say foreigner, I mean non-Korean.
Right. Yeah. If you're new to StarCraft esports, when we say the word foreigner, it means non-Korean. It's because it is a Korean-dominated sport.
Right, sure. And but that's what you're hoping for. You're hoping that Huck makes it to the round of 4, right? You're not hoping that, oh, I'm glad he was there as a point, and now he's going to drop out in the round of 16.
Yeah. God, do you remember early GSL with Jinro? You know, he was making it to like the round of 8 and shit. That was.
I wish I was watching GSL when that was happening.
That was good.
That was crazy, and I did not appreciate it at the time because I was just getting into it. I'm like, what? This happens, right?
Nope.
Team Liquid players are good. They get into the high slots of GSL.
They go to their website.
And now you go back and look, and it's like, no, Genro still is the highest placing foreigner. I think him and Naniwa, I think, have the best record for foreigners in the GSL.
Yeah, I'm good at riding a bicycle, so I'm in the Tour de France every year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a sign-up sheet, right?
Yeah. So I think we got way off track in debate there, but
it's a good debate to have because a lot of it depends heavily on how people view it. Does that make sense? And
right.
I think,
I mean, and you know me, Ben. I mostly follow the Korean scene.
Oh yeah, most people mostly follow the Korean scene. I mean, let's be real.
Not if you read StarCraft.
If you're watching professional StarCraft play, most of you are probably at least aware of the Korean scene.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what I think is as a lot of the Korean players are becoming more and more aware of their Western audience too, I think that is dramatically helping them. And I think it's frankly cool if a bunch of Koreans go to Europe and practice there or live there or compete in tournaments there. I frankly don't know what MVP is doing exactly. Is he actually living in Europe, or is he just competing in specifically those tournaments?
I have no idea off the top of my head.
Right, but some Koreans, for instance, are like 4GG, right? He's become quite a staple in Europe.
Obviously, if it's a LAN tournament, he has to be in the location.
Yeah, no, obviously that's the case. But I'm saying from a living, breathing, practicing point of view, for somebody like 4GG, who I think is he's a former Kespa player, right? I mean, he's been around for a while. He's not brand new to the scene.
Right.
He's clearly, like, being on a team like Millennium for him just like dramatically increases who Millennium gets to practice against, and it improves player skill there. And I think that as a net result is tremendous if they start recognizing scenes outside of Korea that are worth competing in.
Right.
It ups everybody's game, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give you. Yeah, I agree. Especially because that's the whole reason we're so surprised by TLOs. He won against quite a few very good Korean players.
Yeah, let's be clear. I mean, he did come in third, but he lost against Alive. Like, it wasn't embarrassing. It was some good games in there. It wasn't bad.
Right, exactly. And so, like, obviously there are pluses to this. And what I was trying to say much earlier was that negative, positive doesn't matter. The games, a large majority of the games from the WCS so far have been legendary.
Right.
So.
Yep.
Good stuff. I'm excited for season 2. Whatever the case.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I don't care if I don't get my regionalized BS. I'm excited for season 2.
So are the finals at BlizzCon?
The finals for everything will be at BlizzCon, yes.
Yeah.
Dope. I'm so excited to see them in person.
Oh, so stoked. You're pretty much getting the GSL finals you wanted.
Yeah,
more or less.
I really do.
Maybe even slightly better because it's literally just every player possible fighting.
And there's a decent percentage chance that the GSL finalists will be the WCS finalists for whatever given season.
But we do have something Blizzard related that's going to be happening before BlizzCon.
Which is?
In the next section.
Oh, damn!
Come on.
He made an awesome segue, and we failed.
Screwed it up.
So here it is. This week's Diablo news. Oh, Diablo has a new game director. Josh Mosqueira was announced as the new lead developer for Diablo 3, replacing Jay Wilson, who left about 2 months ago to work on other Blizzard projects. Josh posted a greetings letter this week giving his gaming and career history. Notably, he has been hard at work with the console development of Diablo 3, which leads into Tash's very well set up and fairly executed on by me segue. Diablo 3 is coming to Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 on September 3rd. We have a release date for the console version. Happy day for those of us who don't already have it on our PC, I guess.
I didn't see this coming for 360. I
Really?
suppose I should have seen it coming.
It was on the jobs page.
Well, what did they specifically say for Xbox?
Well,
Yeah.
they were looking for 360 developers out of the Diablo 3 section.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I forgot that.
Why wouldn't
Yeah.
you?
Right.
If you're
Yeah.
making it for the
You
PS3,
do,
why?
right. There's no reason not to do it for both consoles. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
not
I was
to.
just
Right, there's no benefit they gain from any sort of exclusivity.
Yeah, unless like someone's giving them a huge paycheck, but it's Blizzard and they have Scrooge.
Yeah,
McDuck money.
they won't, because I mean they're already on the PC. There's no exclusivity to capitalize on.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, technically they're already in bed with Microsoft.
Exactly.
It's the largest platform that their games are digested on.
Sure. But you know they're not in the business of making things exclusive to anything. So they're
Right.
actually extremely accessible as a company.
Well, one of the nice things, though, was during the announcement, so in the page they posted up, there were some screenshots of gameplay that has 4 players on the same screen. And they didn't draw any attention to this. I was just looking at the screen going, that's like one set of health bars there and one there. And then, these are
It's
4 players.
Elegantly done.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it wasn't a talking point. It's very well done. Good on them, because I was very curious how they were going to handle this. I'm like, well, if everyone has 5 custom moves, and then they've got a thing for potions and something else, well, how are they going to handle that with 4 people all playing locally on the same box? And the answer is with smaller health bars in all 4 corners if you're on 4 players, and it looks really good. It's not that intrusive at all, and I'm assuming if you're playing this on the large flat screens that a lot of us now have in our living rooms, that you're really not even going to notice.
Can I just
Now-
say, thank God they actually customized the UI to make this what looks like a decent console experience.
Oh,
instead of putting it directly.
I'm not sure it would be playable otherwise.
Oh yeah, but that hasn't stopped a ton of developers from trying that.
Right, but this isn't EA making a deadline. This is Blizzard, so.
Right, totally.
Hell, we could get to September 3rd and they could be like, oh, we had a health bar issue. It's coming out in December.
Frankly, this looks like it plays a little differently. You know what I mean? This makes me vaguely interested to try it, whereas before I had no.
It looks like a halfway decent party game, and honestly, we
Yeah.
haven't had a good party game in a while. So
Exactly.
this might actually. This has perked my interest slightly. Maybe not to pick it up on day one for 60 bones, but when it's on sale 3 months down the road for $20, why not pick it up? Play Diablo on a massive TV with your buddy sitting next to you.
That's right. Split screen support. Come on.
Hell
Oh,
yeah.
they called the barbarian Hodor. That's awesome.
What?
And
Oh,
one of the
yeah.
screens here, you can see a barbarian that someone named as Barbarian Hodor.
Oh,
That's
great.
awesome. That's so perfect.
Hodor.
Oh, that well. Ah.
Spoilers. There was a well.
There was a well.
Watch out.
God, you ruin everything.
Never mind the wedding of a very specific color. There was a well.
Billy Idol?
Exactly. There's 4 weddings in this season of Game of Thrones.
And a funeral?
Good luck.
Keep going.
If that's what you call a funeral, that's not a funeral I've ever been to. Okay. There's not much to keep going on, but that is more or less it.
So the way it looks here with the 4 players separated on the different like corners of the screen, are we talking about having all 4 players on the same screen instead of split screen?
That's
Correct.
certainly what it's looking like.
I think that might be better than
I think you're right.
small.
I think that's kind of cool, like kind of a
Because from what we've seen of Diablo 3 on console already, it looks like the scale of a lot of things has changed compared to the PC version, both in terms of how much viewable area there is, like how much ground you're seeing, as well as how many monsters are on screen. So this can work. You can keep those 4 players there because it's not like it is on the PC version where there's actually 50 monsters on screen at once and they're just stretching off the side of the screen, so your friend might be over there doing something with them. Like, this is all happening right here in the center, it seems like. And
yeah, I'm sure it'll get a little wonky because I'm curious to see how many characters moving to the side does it cause the camera to move.
Well, it won't necessarily cause the camera to move, but it might start to cause the camera to zoom out.
It'll reset. Oh, that's a good point.
That would be elegant.
I've seen a lot of versions of this where basically that's what they start to do. Like, players spread apart and the camera starts to zoom out to accommodate that up to a certain threshold. So you kind of get this sort of natural flow of like how much screen real estate you're dealing with.
Yeah, it's a side-scroller fighter, not isometric, but Super Smash Brothers works exactly like how you're speaking.
Exactly. So it'll probably function like that in a lot of contexts. Yeah. And it looks like this is specifically designed to be played with other people that are in the room with you. Mm-hmm. And that's what I very much like about it.
Yeah, that's the only thing that perks my interest, like I said.
Exactly. Because you're not playing the PC version, just for fun with your buddies over, right?
Yeah.
That's not...
Unless you set up a LAN party.
Yeah, sure, but that's an entirely different scale of thing. This is like super easy for you to just pick up and go.
Yeah, hey, here's another controller. Let's crack a beer and play some Diablo.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, it's like what you and I do for like Magic days.
Right.
Well, and sure. This is way less... I mean, look at this from the perspective of someone who is not familiar with this game, or maybe even less familiar with video games in general. Mm-hmm. And you hand them a controller and you're like, hey, let's play Call of Duty or let's play Halo. And they're probably familiar with these games exist. That's how much they're familiar with them.
Right.
But that's not a fun environment necessarily to just throw someone into. Whereas I'm looking at this and I'm going, sure, like this looks inherently, especially if you're starting out with not 6 abilities or whatever to use. Maybe you're just starting out with 2 or 3 at a lower level. This just looks very easy to just pick up and start button mashing around and seeing what happens.
This is clearly about the raw gameplay and nothing to do with farming a ton of loot and being super consistent and, playing the auction house and trying to farm specific sections. Like, it looks like it's just designed to be fun.
Yeah, this is like the return of Gauntlet Legends on N64.
I could see this doing extremely well if it's like $20 on like Xbox Live.
It's not going to be, but yeah.
No, it's not going to be. But
it's not anytime soon. I'm sure down the road it'll be available. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if it's available for direct download on day one, but I'm sure it'll be full retail cost.
Yeah, but I would love to play this. Like you said, I think a party game is exactly what this is designed to be. Mm-hmm. Just how slimmed down the abilities are, for instance, is tremendous.
Yeah. $60 right now for pre-order.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but that's not that surprising.
Yeah, it'll come down. So, good stuff.
That's cool. This dramatically changes my opinion of it because they've clearly redesigned it to be a different thing.
Right.
And the good thing is maybe this new game director, with all his work on the console version, is going to bring some of that sensibility kind of in the direction of the PC client.
I think that would certainly not go amiss because a lot of the sort of community feel was in the beginning, oh, it's not hardcore enough because I played the demo and I didn't die once, right? And then afterwards it was, this is way too hard. Why would you make it this hard? What is wrong with you people?
That's if you're a barbarian. And that's still kind of the case.
Yeah, I know, but that's debatable, right? I mean, but that's the general, like, this huge sweeping movements, or we want this to be really easy and really fun and casual and pick up and play, or we want this to be super hard and the gear grind should be brutal because that's what we're used to from Diablo 2. Like, this is weird balance that needs to be struck, right? And there's different crowds that have an influence on this game. Mm-hmm. And there's different perspectives. Diablo 2, like, many years down the road, was played by a dramatically different crowd. Right. The ones who are still playing that are just a very different breed of people from the ones who picked it up and played through the campaign and went, "Oh, that's cool. All right. They may be actual cannibals.
They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. They may be actual cannibals. Just saying.
Okay.
They may enjoy the flesh of the living. Just putting that out there. If you play Diablo 2, I might apologize. Unless you actually eat the flesh of the living, then I guess I was spot on.
Yep.
So, on that note, I guess that brings us to the end of this week's episode of This Week in Blizz. Tash, dude, thanks so much for filling in for Kyle.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
Anything
thank
you have going on? Where can people find you?
I am on Twitter at Tashlama. That's TASHLAMA. I'm in. Are we allowed to talk about the name? No, for the guild we just contact.
No, don't. Yeah, just email us if you're interested.
Yeah, just email thisweekinblizz@gmail.com if you're interested in playing World of
Yeah,
Warcraft.
we've moved
with
guilds.
us.
We've merged with another one, and we're no longer in charge of it, so we don't want to spam it all over the internet.
That's true.
But we're playing with a great group of people, and
Yeah.
we suffered from what we were talking about earlier, where we had 110 man going, and that was it, and it was super hard to sustain anything outside of that because it was functionally exclusionary. I think if we would have been in a very different situation had we had flex raids.
Agreed.
Yep.
And that being said, do not let it, just because we don't want to say the guild name, don't let that deter you. If you are looking for a new home, if you're looking for a new guild, our new guild is very welcoming. It is very open. There are a lot of like-minded people. If you think we sound like cool people to play WoW with, you'll love our new guild. So shoot us an email, thisweekinblizz@gmail.com, and just put in the subject line, WoW Guild TWiB Crew, something, I don't know. Figure it out. Possibly in a...
And this string of 6 digits.
In
Make sure you include that. Right?
Yeah, we'll give you a code. Then you're going to have to get in your car and drive to a very specific location where I will meet you. I'll be wearing a creepy cloak.
Yep.
It'll be behind a gas station. And just make sure I'm the correct creepy cloaked figure, because
Make sure you give the appropriate hand signal.
Exactly.
Or you'll be ignored completely.
Yeah. Yeah, so, no. Anyways, leave us a review in the iTunes store if you have not already and you are a podcast listener. It is by far and away the best way to support the show and to support the show for free. This Week in Blizz is a production of amove.tv. You can find this and many other awesome shows right over there, so make sure you bookmark amove.tv. You can see more about our show at thisweekinblizz.com, and you can email us at thisweekinblizz@gmail.com. We record the podcast live every Monday night right here at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on amove.tv/live. You can follow us on Twitter at thisweekinblizz. I'm at Garrett Art. Ben is at Pixel Garbage. Kyle, who is absent, is at Kyle Ferguson. And yeah, check out our new show, The Campaign Roundtable. We're starting Prince of Persia: Sands of Time tomorrow, providing Kyle gets the Sands of Time out of his lungs.
Please recap at the end of that whole set of episodes on that. Like, recap what happens in Warrior Within and Two Thrones, because that's just such a huge payoff for everything that happens in Sands of Time.
Does it at the end of Two Thrones? Do they completely write off Warrior Within ever happening?
No.
Oh, well then
And
it's
in fact,
not a good payoff.
No. But they find a good way to basically make fun of it and also respect it as part of the story at the same time.
All right. I've actually never played Two Thrones, but
it's so good.
Slight preview of tomorrow's episode. I've been attempting to play Sands of Time on Steam.
Are you really bad at it?
No, the PC version is a flaming turd. It is crap. The only way it mildly works is with a mouse and keyboard. I don't know if you've ever tried to play Prince of Persia with a mouse and keyboard. It doesn't work at all. And then I managed to make it kind of work for the Xbox controller, but it doesn't work perfectly. And if you move the left joystick, which is the move joystick, if you go diagonally right, he just walks. Refuses to run. So any of the timed don't get cut in half puzzles are impossible. So I broke down today and I bought the HD re-release of the whole trilogy on PS3. It'll be here tomorrow. So I'm gonna have Two Thrones, so I'm gonna definitely play it.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I always want. It came at a weird time. It was like right when I hit college.
It also was just before the 360 came out, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly, and I just missed it entirely. One of the main reasons we're doing Sands of Time is it is one of my favorite games from the last generation. Like right up there with Combat Evolved. Love it. So, anyways, to finish out our outro, check out nomanart.com for my stream designs. If you need any freelance stuff done, check it out. Kyle's not here, but go check out Biggest Fan Podcast. I don't know what crazy kooky topic they have this week, but I'm sure it'll be crazy, it'll be kooky, and it'll be Kyle and Brockett being very funny. So go check it out. Please check out our sponsors, doghousesystems.com and tweakedaudio.com. Our code is TWiB, TWiB, and it'll get you double memory on your next Doghouse Systems gaming rig, as well as 30% off and free shipping on your entire order of noise-reducing earbuds from tweakedaudio.com. Those earbuds also come with a lifetime warranty, so go check them out. We thank them for their support. Once again, Tash, thank you so much. Ben, I'll see you next week. And thank you all for tuning in.
So underappreciated.
And on that, I bid you adieu.
I guess.